Hi there, GC De Guzman here for our top 5 gainers and top 5 losers analysis for May 16, 2019. That is Thursday. So as usual, I'm going to give you my technical analysis, overall sentiment, and trade setups for the top 5 gainers and top 5 losers today. These are the stocks that got the biggest total turnover value in their proper categories. So the top 5 gainers and the top 5 losers. So we will begin with Double Dragon. And by the way, this video for May 16, 2019 is in preparation for the next trading day, Friday's trading. Let's begin with Double Dragon. DD closed on Thursday at 25.40. Support is at 23.64 while resistance is at 27.10 or 27.15 if you would like to round it up. So despite the presence of this green candlestick, MACD was not able to cross above the signal line. Of course, that's quite understood because Double Dragon must inch closer, if not move higher or cross above the immediate resistance for us to see uh, a golden cross be registered by the MACD on its histogram. Now, I'm already seeing a perfect bullish alignment among the three SMAs of Double Dragon. However, I will only have a high conviction bullish call on the perfect bullish alignment of Double Dragon if and when the price inches closer to its immediate resistance at 27.10 pesos. 27 pesos and 10 centavos to be exact. Now, on the DMI histogram, I'm seeing quite I'm seeing a divergence. Yes, it's already a divergence between the positive and the negative DMI. Once the price inches closer or draws closer to 27.10, then we will see the positive DMI moving or crossing above the negative DMI. And if and when the ADX will maintain its position above the 30 point level, and if we see that the positive DMI is already moving above the negative DMI, then that would be an indication that the upward momentum is relatively strong. Now let's take a look if our 4-point criteria are present on Double Dragon's chart. Is it a green candlestick? Yes. Did it close above its volume weighted average price of 24.98? This is it. This one here. 24.98. This one. 24.98. Yes, it did. Do we see green volume bar that is higher than the 50% of this 10-day volume average? Yes, it did. How about the trade and volume distribution chart of Double Dragon? So let's open it to find it out. So the most traded or the dominant range on this trade and volume distribution chart is between 25 all the way to 25.5. That's closer to the intraday high than the intraday low. However, if and when Double Dragon uh, gives us a bearish start on Friday, I would suggest that you adjust your waiting zone between 24 all the way to 24.5. But only if Double Dragon will give us a bearish start on Friday. So there you go. All 4-point criteria are present. Okay, for Double Dragon. So even though the conditions for our 10 SMA and MACD combo have not been met, met yet, still we have a data-driven reason. Just in case you would like to preempt the 10 SMA and MACD combo, you have a data-driven reason to do a test buy within the most dominant range. So there you go. You've heard that. If you don't have Double Dragon but you are planning to enter a trade on this stock, you've heard my technical analysis and sentiment for Double Dragon. In the short term, I am bullish on Double Dragon. Now, of course, before you do a test buy, make sure that you calculate your reward to risk ratio. If your satisfaction level is met, then that's the best time for you to do a test buy on Double Dragon. If you need some examples, if you're looking for the formula on on how to calculate your reward to risk ratio, please go back to your My Account tab right here, My Account tab, and then click on the Quick Start Guide. Read it again. I already defined what a reward to risk ratio is with examples and the formula on how to calculate it. Okay, so next stock in the list we have LR. LR closed on Thursday at 4.20. Support is at 3.8. Now for the resistance, we can consider this one as the resistance level. By the way, let me just plot it on the chart. So somewhere there, at somewhere at 4 point, somewhere at 4.15 or 4.20. So more or less, we can say that LR already crossed above its midterm resistance near the 4.15 to 4.20 level as a precursor to the major one, which is at 4.5. Okay, again, support is at 3.80. The major resistance rather is at 4.5. There's a midterm resistance between 4.15 to 4.20, and we can say again, more or less, it has already crossed above that midterm resistance. I'd like to mention as well that I'm already seeing a perfect bullish alignment among the three simple moving averages of LR. The last candlestick is also moving above the 10 SMA, and the MACD is already moving above the signal line. And it is not the first. It wasn't just today. It was not just today that MACD crossed above the signal line. It already crossed above the signal line as early as May 3, 2019. Okay, May 3, 2019. Let's see. On that day, on that day, the 10 SMA and MACD combo, the conditions for our 10 SMA and MACD combo were met, were satisfied on that day. So that was the logical time to enter a new position on LR. Okay, I do not see any issue on the volume as well of LR on May 3. The volume on that day was way higher than the 10-day volume average of this stock. Okay, but for today, on the DMI, let me just mention that I'm seeing a confirmation of a strong upward momentum based on the directional movement index histogram, DMI. Okay, so now let's double check the 4-point criteria, their presence. Do we see, number one, do we see a green candlestick? The last price, yes we do. Did it close above the VWAP of 4.15? Yes it did. It closed at 4.20. Do we see a green volume bar that is higher than the 50% of the stock's 10-day volume average? Yes we do. How about the trade and volume distribution chart? Is the dominant range higher than the closer to the intraday high than the intraday low? Yes it is. And the dominant range is between, we can say it's between 4.16 all the way to 4.3. Okay, that's the dominant range. So in the short term, I am bullish on LR. Okay, now even though you've heard me say that I am bullish on LR, if you don't have LR and you are just planning to enter a new trade on this stock on Friday, number one, make sure that you calculate your reward to risk ratio first. Support is at 3.80, resistance is at 4.5. Remember that. You need those values to calculate your reward to risk ratio. If your satisfaction level is met on your RRR, reward to risk ratio, then you do a test buy within the dominant range that I've shown you a few seconds ago. If you have had LR, you should be good to go for as long as you know where your trailing stop loss is. Reminder, do not forget to do an upward adjustment on your trailing stop loss. Okay, once the price registers a price point higher than the previous one. Okay, so there you go for LR. The next stock in the list we have Chelsea Logistics Holdings Corporation. So this is stock code CHELSEA closed on Thursday at 6.38. Support is at 6.11. Resistance is at 7.16. Should it break below 6.11, it will bring back 5.05 as its support. Now, if it breaks above 7.16, that will make 8.9 as its next resistance level. Although Chelsea is already moving above the 10 SMA, note that I am not yet seeing a perfect bullish alignment among its three simple moving averages. On the other hand, MACD has been bullish on Chelsea since April 29, 2019. That was not just April 29, but as early as April 26, 25 or 26. The 10 SM, the conditions for the 10 SMA and MACD combo were met on that day. Volume was good on that day. Okay. Now, reminder, RSI is already approaching its classical overbought level. So it's all the more that you should be careful on your decisions on Chelsea, especially if you bought this stock below 6 pesos per share. Okay? It's all the more that you should monitor the price movement by the second. Okay, now, meanwhile, on the DMI histogram, I'm seeing a confirmation of a strong upward momentum. Mean to say there's still enough gas, or maybe more than enough upward momentum for Chelsea to continue its ascent in price. But we don't have to keep our hopes up too high. We have to uh, be cautious of our expectations as well, because at any moment from now, a massive profit taking might uh, take over take over on the sentiment of the traders of this stock. So let's be on top of your trailing stop loss. Be on top of your trailing stop loss all the time. Now, if you are just planning to enter a new position on Chelsea and you don't have it yet in your portfolio, as usual, you've heard me say this a while back, that number one, you have to calculate your reward to risk ratio first. If you are happy with your RRR, then that's the time that you should do a test buy within the dominant range, which I am yet to show you. But first things first, let's check the presence of our 4-point criteria. Number one, do we see green candlestick? Yes, we do. Number two, did it close above its VWAP of 6.31? Check. Do we see a green volume bar that is higher than the 50% of Chelsea's 10-day volume average? Yes, we do. So now let me show you the trade and volume distribution chart of Chelsea. Remember, it closed today at 6.38. So on the trade and volume distribution chart of Chelsea, it's quite challenging to identify a dominant range, because apparently it looks like that almost every single price point traded today got a sizable number of trades, or maybe a sizable volume. So at this point, I am neutral. I am neutral on the trade and volume distribution chart of Chelsea. But if I have to choose a dominant range here, I would say that would be between 6.25 all the way to 6.41. But still, that's closer to the intraday high than the intraday low. Nonetheless, I have this feeling of hesitation on the trade and volume distribution chart of Chelsea to give it a bullish sentiment on that criterion. So if I were to put a score on our 4-point criteria, I'm not going to give this one a 100% bullish sentiment based on the presence of our 4-point criteria. Maybe I would just give it about 90 to 95%. Okay, so partly because, like what I mentioned a while back, RSI is already approaching its classical overbought territory or level. Okay, so I am bullish on Chelsea with a little bit of hesitation coming from the trade and volume distribution chart today. So be risk averse. I would just say that be risk averse on Chelsea. Maybe you would want to lock in some profits once the price draws closer to 7 pesos per share, or maybe at 7.16, towards close to the resistance level. Okay, next stock in the list we have Tech. Surtech Holdings Philippines Corporation closed on Thursday at 27 pesos per share. Support is near 25.9, resistance is near 29 pesos per share. I'm seeing a perfect, unfortunately, it's a perfect bearish alignment among its three SMAs. And let's see, did 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 Surtech close above its uh, 10-day simple moving average of 27.07? No, not yet. It's yet to cross above that line. So as far as the position of Tech is concerned, below its 10 SMA on the daily chart, I would say that Tech is still bearish in the short term and long term periods on the daily chart. If we are to base it on the last candlestick's position uh, below below the simple moving averages. In addition to that, on my DMI histogram, the negative DMI is still moving above the positive DMI, and the average directional index is still telling me that the downward momentum is still relatively strong. Okay, MACD is still moving below the signal line, although I'm seeing a formation. Reminder, it's just a formation, not a confirmation. It's a formation of a bullish convergence with the signal line. But um, Tech must really uh, draw closer to its resistance at 29 pesos per share for this formation of a bullish convergence to turn out into a golden cross to turn out into a this golden cross above the signal line. So there's a lot of work to do for Tech for that scenario to happen on the MACD's histogram. Okay, now let's see the 4-point criteria. Let's check. Green candlestick. It's a green one. Check. Did it close above the VWAP of 26.37? It did. Check. Do we see green volume bar above the 50% of Tech's 10-day volume average? We do. So checked. Let's take a look at the trade and volume distribution chart of Tech. So here, the dominant range is between 25.8 all the way to 27 pesos per share. So it's closer to the intraday high than the intraday low. So I am bullish on Tech in the short term, but please consider that it's yet to cross above the 10 SMA. So meaning to say, the conditions for our 10 SMA and MACD combo have not been met yet. Now, if you would like to preempt the fulfillment of those conditions of our 10 SMA and MACD combo, I am telling you that all 4-point criteria, all 4 points are present on Tech. So should you decide to do a test buy on Tech, please do it within the dominant range that I have shown you a few seconds ago. All right, so there you go for Tech. Next stock in the list we have Web. So it's been a while that we have not been talking about Web in our daily top 5 gainers and top 5 losers analysis. But on Thursday, Web closed at 3.09, support is at 2.9, resistance is near 3.24. I'd like to mention as well that I am not yet seeing a perfect bullish alignment among the 3 SMAs of Web. However, Web is already moving above the 10 SMA and the 50 SMA. So on the daily chart, Web is still bearish in the long term, but it's already bullish in the short to medium term. Okay, MACD is still moving below the signal line. However, I'm already seeing a formation of a bullish convergence between MACD and the signal line, but I prefer to see Web to cross above 3.24 for this formation to be converted into a golden cross. Okay, unless and until that happens, then MACD will maintain its bearish sentiment for Web. Now on the DMI histogram, even though the positive DMI is already moving above the negative DMI, the ADX, or the average directional index, is still not giving Web a strong upward momentum status. So meaning to say, um, yes, we are seeing green candlesticks for the past 2 to 3 trading days, but the upward momentum is still not yet inside that quote unquote strong level, okay, so to speak. So I think we will only see uh, ADX give web a strong upward momentum status once the price crosses above 3.24, the resistance, the immediate resistance level. Okay, so let's see the 4 point criteria. Let's see if these 4 points are all present on web. Is the last price having a green candlestick? Yes. Did it close above the VWAP of 3.07? Yes. Do we see a green volume bar that is higher than the 50% of Web's 10-day volume average? Yes, we do. How about the trade and volume distribution chart? I'm showing it to you right now. So the most traded and most voluminous range is pegged between 3.06 all the way to 3.13. So yes, that's closer to the intraday high than the intraday low. Therefore, the 4 points are all these 4 points that we are monitoring are all present on webs on webs on web. Yeah. Now, take note that the conditions for our 10 SMA and MACD combo have not been met yet, but you have a data-driven reason to preempt the fulfillment of our 10 SMA and MACD combo because all 4 points are present on web. But again, you have to buy in tranches and not in a one-time big-time fashion. Don't buy or don't spend your trading capital in a by spending it all by buying in a in a one-time fashion. You make sure, especially if your trading capital is relatively sizable, I would suggest that you know divide it into a few tranches. Okay, because we will never know what will happen on the price movement of any stock. Okay, because sometimes even though our technical indicators are bullish on a particular stock's price movement, the next day sometimes we get surprised that despite the bullishness of our data-driven sentiment, sometimes the stock chooses to act as a contrarian to what our technical indicators are saying. So sometimes that happens. So we have to consider those probabilities or possibilities as well. So that's why we should have a risk management system, and that's the reason why I have been talking about using a trailing stop loss in our strategy. Remember, a trailing stop loss does three-letter P's. It protects your capital, it preserves your gains, and it prevents unbearable losses. It does not remove losses, it only prevents unbearable losses. Okay, so let's take a look at the um, yeah, I already showed you the trade and volume distribution chart of web. So there you go. I'm bullish on web in the short term, but keep in mind those pieces of advice that I've given you for this particular stock. So next stock in the list we have Ayala Corporation. Ayala Corporation is also an index company. This is part of our investment guide for long-term investors. However, this video is for short-term trading purposes. So please uh, keep that in mind. Okay, so everything that you're going to hear from me in this video is for short-term trading purposes, not for long-term investing. I hope that's clear. So Ayala Corporation closed on Thursday at 838 pesos per share. Support is near 835. Resistance is near 904, but there's a midterm resistance positioned near 865 pesos per share. 865. FYI, foreign investors have been selling Ayala Corporation by a significant degree for three straight trading days already. This Thursday, they sold about 436 million pesos worth of shares. On Tuesday, last Tuesday, they sold about 323 million pesos worth of shares. On Wednesday, they sold about 145 million pesos, and today, again, they sold about 436 million pesos worth of shares. FYI again, MACD already crossed below the signal line. That's a death cross. That's not the kind of cross that we prefer to see for any stock that we would like to trade or any stock that we already have. As much as possible, for every stock that we have in our portfolio, what we prefer to see, ideally speaking, is to see golden crosses and not death crosses. Because a golden cross signifies bullishness, a death cross signifies bearishness. How does a golden cross look like? It is when MACD crosses above the signal line. How does a death cross look like? It is when the MACD crosses below, the exact opposite of a golden cross. Okay? So, now, what if Ayala Corporation breaks below 835? What will be the next support level then? So the next support level below 835 is 776 or 777 if we are to round it up. Okay, 777. It's still a historical resistance. Okay, historical resistance rooted since 2017. Okay, so you can see on this video the succeeding the concurrent or succeeding support levels if should Ayala Corporation break below one support level after another. Okay, now for 2019 year to date, be informed that foreign investors have been bearish on Ayala Corporation. Okay, on the RSI's histogram, I am seeing that RSI is already approaching its classical oversold level. So this this makes it all the more exciting. In what sense? There's a probability for Ayala Corporation to translate 835 as a rebound zone. That is if the investors of Ayala Corporation will think that this stock is already too cheap to be ignored at this support level, being that RSI, like what I've mentioned, is already approaching its classical oversold level. But seeing this towering red volume for today, we have to continue monitoring instead of making assumptions that it will indeed rebound from 835 per share. So we have to continue monitoring to get some confirmations if the uh, sellers of Ayala Corporation have already been have already met their exhaustion level. So we have to check for some signs of exhaustion in terms of selling. So once we have seen some uh, signals that these uh, sellers of Ayala Corporation have met their exhaustion levels, then we have to check the presence of our 4-point criteria. If all 4 points are present, then that's the time that we can consider doing a test buy within the dominant range based on our trade and volume distribution analysis. But for now, DMI is telling me that the downward momentum is still, relatively considerably strong for Ayala Corporation. So, if you are planning to do some short-term trading on Ayala Corporation, postpone that plan yet. Postpone that plan for now. It's best for you to do some monitoring and spot some signs of exhaustion on the selling of Ayala Corporation. That's the best thing that you have to do for now. Do not rush, in short. Okay, now let's take a look at the trade and volume distribution chart. The dominant range is between, okay, dominant range is between 855 all the way to 860. But there's this one here at 838. Is this the closing price today? Yes, it is. It's the intraday low as well. So there's a strong possibility now for Ayala Corporation to challenge the support at 835, so there's a possibility for the stock to retest the price at the 800 level. So let's continue monitoring indeed. Okay, next stock in the list we have ICT. ICT closed on Thursday at 134.5, support is at 133.2, resistance, it seems that it has treated the resistance at 141.80 as a resistance level. Now, just in case ICT will rebound from 134.5 and breaks above 141.8, let me plot an up Fibonacci for you so you already know its psychological resistance above 141.8, and that is in confluence with the 61.8% of the Fibonacci extension, which is exactly at 155.11. So keep that in mind, please. Okay, so MACD is still above the signal line, but it has already bent downwards. So that's a formation of a bearish convergence with the signal line. But I think we will only see a death cross on MACD's histogram only if the price, I think only once the price breaks below, probably lower than 128.5, or maybe on that spot itself. Okay, ICT still the DMI of ICT is still, the positive DMI is still above the negative DMI, but we have seen a red candlestick today, and that red candlestick was matched with a relatively sizable volume that's a little bit shy, a few points shy from crossing above the 10-day volume average. Foreign investors sold about 26 million pesos worth of shares today. For 2019 year to date, foreign investors they are still net buyers. Okay, how ironic, they are still net. Oh, it's not ironic because ICT has been moving bullishly for quite some time already. So again, foreign investors are net buyers. They are bullish on ICT for 2019 year to date. Now, let's take a look at the trade and volume distribution chart of ICT. So the dominant range is between, let me zoom it out again, one more. So it's between 137.7 to 139.4, 137.37, 137.6 to 139.4, or 139 point, yeah, 139.4. Still, that's closer to the intraday low than the intraday high. So now if you bought ICT below 133 or maybe below 120 or within that level, please be on top of your trailing stop loss. Consider locking in your profits above the 133 level. If you don't like to sell everything, maybe you have the option to sell a few tranches, maybe half of your total holdings on ICT. If you are planning to enter a new position on ICT, let's say you don't have ICT yet and you're planning to use some play money on ICT, please monitor the stock price movement for now. Don't hurry. For as soon as you see the presence of those 4 points that we are monitoring, that's the logical time. That's the logical time for you to consider doing a test buy. Nonetheless, do not forget, as always, to calculate your reward to risk ratio. Always refer to our quick start guide. If there's a terminology that I have mentioned and you are not quite familiar with it, refer to our quick start guide first. And if it's not in our quick start guide, you know where to ask me in our private clients forum. Okay? So in the short term, I'm turning to be bearish on ICT in the short term, but it's still bullish in the short term. Okay? So lock in your profits. For those of you who have ICT, lock in your profits now. Not now, technically not now, but once the market opens. Now, if you don't have ICT, again, monitor it for now. Okay, next stock in the list we have PHEN. PHEN closed on Thursday at 1.98. it bumped, it means it bounced away from its support resistance at 2.16. Support is at 1.67. So I'm seeing a perfect bullish alignment among its three SMAs, but we are seeing uh, a red candlestick that engulfed the last two candlesticks from the last two trading days, and volume is also relatively high as it's already above the 10-day volume average of PHEN. So when we see a green candlestick and volume is higher than the stock's 10-day volume average, it means to say those people who have PHEN saw something that made them decide to join the selling activity on this stock. So that's what it means. Okay. Meanwhile, MACD is still moving above the signal line, and it's not quite the the the, the MACD. I am still not seeing. Let me make that clear. I'm still not seeing a formation of a bearish convergence of MACD with the signal line, despite the presence of this red candlestick. Okay. Nonetheless, I'd like to inform you that RSI already visited its classical overbought level, and that explains. We can quote RSI here as as one of the technical reasons why PHEN traders decided to lock in some profits near the support level, near the resistance level at 2.15 or 2.16. Okay, now let's take a look at the trade and volume distribution chart of PHEN. The dominant range today is between 2.08 1.98 to 2.08. That's closer to the intraday low than the intraday high. If you have PHEN, lock in your profits to the highest price that you would be able to catch. And if you don't have PHEN, don't enter a new position yet. Again and again, entertain the idea of doing a test buy once those 4 points that we're monitoring are present. Okay, CHP is the next stock. CHP closed on Thursday at 2.68. Support is at 2.2. Resistance is at 2.88. It's still above the 10 SMA. I'd like to mention, by the way, that despite the presence of this red candlestick, I am not quite convinced that those who have CHP were convinced to join the selling activity. Why? Because volume is not, it's just, it seems that volume is below the 50% of CHP's 10-day volume average. Mean to say they did not see something that that really convinced them. They did not see something that convinced them to do some massive selling activity on CHP. Some sold, but most are still holding their position. In fact, foreign investors have been on a net foreign buying mode on CHP for, let me count, for how many trading days in a row? For 10 trading days straight. So they have been buying CHP. Today, they bought about 30 million pesos worth of shares. MACD still bullish above the signal line. And RSI, by the way, is very close. It's approaching its classical over bought level. Okay, so there you go. I think yeah, some CHP holders already decided to lock in some profits near 2.8 the other day. On the DMI histogram, I can see here that the upward momentum remains strong. ADX is still above the 32 points. Okay, so let's take a look at the trade and volume distribution chart. The dominant range is between 2.68 to 2.76, majority of which is closer to the intraday low than the intraday high. So if you have CHP, let's say you manage to buy CHP between 1.8 to 2.2, I would suggest that you consider locking in some profits. You can preempt your trailing stop loss. Okay, you can preempt your trailing stop loss. If you attended the seminar that I gave last May 4 in Makati City, uh, I gave some handouts where I documented there uh, a certain condition wherein you can preempt your trading stop loss. Meaning to say, there are some I gave some conditions as to when you can decide to sell even before your trading stop loss is hit. Okay, so there. Now, if you don't have CHP, please don't buy the stock yet. Wait for some signs of exhaustion in terms of selling. Let the dust settle down first, as I always say. Okay, don't rush in on CHP. Okay, hopefully if this descent in price will continue all the way to 2.2 and we spot the presence of those 4 points that we always monitor at the 2.2 level, then that's the time that we have to test buy within the dominant range and not at any price, of course. Okay, next stock in the last stock in the list, we have Petron Corporation. PCOR closed at 5.57 on Thursday. It's at the brink of crossing or breaking below its support level at 5.54. Let me plot the resistance level here. Resistance is near. Okay, let me draw this horizontal lines. Resistance is near 6.4. Now I have plotted a down Fibonacci, and the 61.8% of the down Fibonacci extension is at 5 peso per share. So if PCOR breaks below 5.54, let's keep an eye on the next support level at 5 pesos per share. MACD is already bearish on PCOR. Okay. By the way, RSI is about 2 to 3 points away from entering its classical oversold level. Take note that PCOR might consider 5.5 as a rebound. It might consider 5.5 as its rebound zone. So let's keep an eye on PCOR's performance on Friday. But if it continues to decline below 5.54 or 5.5, we have to wait near 5 pesos per share, or until those 4 points that we monitor start to appear. Okay, but as of now, the downward momentum is still strong, as I can see it on the DMI's histogram. Okay, let me mention too that I'm seeing a perfect bearish alignment among the three SMAs of PCOR. Now, the trade and volume distribution chart of PCOR, the dominant range is between 5.57 to 5.67. It's obviously closer to the intraday low than the intraday high. By the looks of this chart of PCOR, I should not be giving any advice on what you should do if you have PCOR, because I don't see any logical reason why any of you should have PCOR. Okay? But if you are a new subscriber, and it is only now that you have learned or heard the phrase trailing stop loss, then I would suggest that you should sell on strength. What does selling on strength mean? Selling on strength means selling every time you see a recovery on the price of the stock. It's not necessarily once it breaks above a resistance level, or although ideally that's it. That's the concept behind the selling on strength. But you know, sometimes a downtrending stock does not always hit a resistance level uh, for some fake rebounds or dead cat bounces. Sometimes they just uh, hit the midpoint or the middle between the immediate support and resistance level, and not all the way through the resistance level. So might as well, if you have PCOR and it is only today that you've heard the concept of trailing stop loss, I would suggest that you sell on strength. If you need further clarification on this one, please post in our private clients forum. If you don't have PCOR, good. Okay, good. So continue monitoring PCOR. I am seeing no signs, no data-driven reason to trade or to buy PCOR for now. Okay, let's wait for the appearance of those 4 points. As soon as they become present, let's do another trade and volume distribution for us to identify the dominant range, because that's where we should position our test buy. I am bearish on PCOR. Do I still need to say that? Okay, so you've heard my technical analysis, overall sentiment, and trade setups or recommendations for Double Dragon, LR, Chelsea, Sirtech or Tech, Web, Ayala Corporation, ICT, PHEN, CHP, and Petron Corporation for May 16 in preparation for the next trading day. Again, my name is JC De Guzman, and by the way, if you'd like me to teach you personally the everything that we do here at Equilist Analytics, the details of it for 4 straight hours, I would suggest that you visit the seminar section. I will have one in Angeles City, and then in Iloilo, Cebu, Davao, Baguio, Cavite. Just take a look at the seminar section and uh, reserve your ticket. Buy your ticket as soon as you can, because I will be only accommodating about 20 to 30 people per batch, so that I can accommodate everyone properly. Okay? So there you go. My name is JC De Guzman for today's top 5 gainers and top 5 losers analysis. Thank you, and have a profitable and a disciplined trading day ahead. Thank you.